Hello, welcome to part 2. Not really part 2, but take 2, because the first one was way too long of a video. It was too chaotic, too crazy, and if it was me watching, I couldn't. Like, I need timestamps, or I need it in an organized niche way that I can go back. And I didn't even have that for my own, and I couldn't. So I'm sorry for how all over the place it was. Hopefully this is gonna be shorter. But anyways, welcome to my 80 plus ecosystem journaling. My journaling of 80 plus ecosystem, whatever vice versa word you wanna use. I have this many because I have short-term memory loss. It's hereditary from my grandmother, and the more stress I'm under, the more I forget things. And then it gets very overwhelming when I want to write something down, but I don't want to use that specific journal for what I want to write down, because then not only am I using this specific journal for this specific thing, I'm now using it as another specific thing, and then I'm using it for another specific thing, and then I'm used the journal up, and that's the point. But also I lose track of what I'm looking for. I lose track of what I wrote. I lose track of what I'm trying to find. I just lose track, and it takes away the actual purpose for me, because I need things in an organized manner. I need it to be specific, so that way I don't have to think. I can just grab it and write it down, and then it doesn't keep me up for hours on end at nighttime because I don't have anything. So here's all of my journals, and then I have some back here behind me, back here, which I'm gonna get to. But first, I think we should start off a little smaller, and that way we can wrap it up pretty quickly. So I'm gonna start off with my laptop, because I didn't mention it in the last one. I wouldn't say like a journal on this, but sometimes when I can't get to a journal and I'm on the laptop, I'll like write it down in a Google Doc, and then I'll transfer it to the journal, or I'll use the laptop to write down as the rough draft, because sometimes I don't want the rough draft inside that journal when I'm trying to make it cohesive to my thoughts, that I'll use the laptop as the rough draft instead. So I feel like that was actually pretty fast so far. This is moving along. The last video, I was at like 7 minutes, and I was just rambling still with the intro. Okay, so this one is my sketchbook. Actually, originally, this was my sketchbook, but I've accumulated a lot of papers that I really wanted to transfer to a junk journal, but I didn't have a junk journal. And it was getting a lot. Like, it was taking up my desk space, and then it was taking up other spaces. So I changed this one into my junk journal instead, and then I got a new one for the sketchbook because I didn't want to fill up my sketches in this one. This was actually the first drawing that I drew. It's a Wizard 101 drawing. And I love all of these characters. All of these characters are my favorite. Especially this couple right here. I love this couple. And I also love the miner guy. But yeah, okay. I love it. I'm gonna show you a favorite picture in my junk journal, and it's my favorite because me and my grandmother did it together. I was asking her grandmother. I don't know why I say grandmother. I don't call her grandmother. I call her grandma. But I was asking her, where should I put all this stuff? And she's like, just do it. It's okay. I love it. I love how it looks. Because she's legally blind and she couldn't actually do it. But she had a lot of fun when I showed her what it looks like and such. It was a lot of fun. We did this page together. I want to do another one with her. Okay, and then another page that I really like is this page right here, because me and my grandmother share the same birthday, relatively the same birthday. Mine's the 28th, hers is the 29th. And so this is like kind of dedicated to like our birthday, because we drank this together and it was fun. She loved it. Okay, so whoops. And then this page, I'll show the last page. This page right here is some dates that Cullen and I have gone on to. And yeah, I really like this page too. Okay, now we will move on. We gotta close this properly. No, there's other pages I really want to show, but I don't want this video to take that long as it did last time, so I'm going to skip showing. This is a little activity booklet. It was a happy planner, but I didn't use it because I didn't like the idea of spending $20 on a planner that I can't reuse. I didn't like the idea of spending that much, even if it was like laminated and it had file systems and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I don't know. It was in the middle of the year, and so I just couldn't use it. But I didn't want to get rid of it because I really, really wanted one. So instead, I'm using it as like a spontaneous craft or spontaneous theme or spontaneous day or spontaneous, just spontaneous. Basically, like when you look at printers and you search things to do, that's what this is for. Like, for example, dance in the rain, or camp in the backyard when it rained or not rain, build forts, let's see. Oh. Make a secret handshake. I think that would be fun. So it's just little stuff to do. And then you can basically just flip to the page, point to a random thing, or just look through it. And what's also nice about this is because it is set up into different months, you can have it themed based on summer ideas or based on spring ideas, spring, summer, fall, or is based on winter. You can set it up that way too. I think that's really handy. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, that's it for this one. I'm gonna put these back. Okay. And then I'm gonna move on to my journals. My other journals. I consider those journals because it's a physical media that you write instead of storing it digitally. And I guess like the laptop is digital too, but I just feel like journals come in like different varieties that I consider it journal in that aspect, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, let's start. Let's see. Is all of these? Okay, that's what I thought. Now I categorize these. So in this category we have, what is this category? Oh, so this is more like creative. I don't have the category yet inside my head, so I'm gonna just call it. Okay, so cookbook recipe cutouts is basically you cut out a recipe from a magazine and then you tape it here. That looks so good. And I also put who it was by in case I want to look up more what they have. These ones look so good. That looks so good. It's the glare of it is taking away how good it looks. But that looks really good too. This one is called a mushroom portobello quesadilla with habanero salsa. And this is called a chorizo stuffed zucchini boats. That just sounds amazing. The Eliminac planner. This goes with one of these Ziplocs. Over here goes with two of these Ziplocs over here that I'm gonna use for this. Mythology My Life. Basically, you can write stories about your life and put them in a thing where you're just making something up. For me, I want to try and write my situation out into a better, more hopeful situation where it doesn't feel like I'm in a stress case or feel like I'm being discouraging. So, and then we have my food recipes. I don't have any in here, but one recipe I do have that I will let you in on is a hot dog with goldfish on it. And I want to write that down in here. It's basic, but use colorful goldfish. Colorful goldfish, it does taste different. And then I love drinking tea. I really do. This is called tea potions. It's where basically just combo different teas that you really like and you put them in here. On which ones you think would go really well. Essential oil mixing. Same thing, same concept with the tea potions. You just mix different ones together that you like the smell of or that you like basically that you just like the aroma of. So this category is just called creative outlet, I guess. But yeah, with my mythology in my life, I'm gonna write in the context of like a hope of what I want to see through, or what I would hope like Jesus would kind of like teach me something, I guess, but in a positive aspect in comparison to being negative. Okay, so now that that's done, we're gonna put that there. We're just gonna put them to the side too, once I'm done with them. Alrighty, this category is learning, is a learning category. People in theory, this one is just analyzing people, what they do. Like when you people watch, you can analyze them and not judge them, but just analyze them, what they do, how they pick something up, or just really just if you're in a conversation with somebody and you're talking about why does somebody do so and so, you could like ask that as a question and then try to understand that person better and write it out that way. Or even if you just find yourself judging people so much, you could even do it that way too, because that way instead of judging them, you can try to understand them from their point of view. The practice of a new format, calligraphy. Think of it like how comics have formats, or your Word docs have formats, and then just practice. Like cursive, but you can make your own, or you can practice another one. Language learning, I think when I try to do language learning from audiobooks at the library or book texts, I don't want to do it anymore. I just don't. I think it's, even through the apps, I don't want to do it anymore, because I just want to learn one sentence at a time that I want to learn. And then I write it down, and I can practice it that way. And I just feel like it doesn't feel like I have to rush it, or it doesn't feel like I have to turn it in, because the library, you have a thing and it makes you return it. And even though you can renew it, it still feels like a hassle to do all that. So if you want to learn a language, you can write it in this. Coding, if you're into coding is so hard. I really want to do it. I just want to learn different codings. Learning school, if you graduated school, or if you're still in school, or if you're not and you don't have the best education, like me personally, my bio mom, she really messed up my education. Really bad. She messed it up so bad. So if you want to be self-taught, that's usually me. I recommend doing this. It's a lot more fun when you actually want to do it versus it being shoved down and forced, or nonchalantly at all being done. Non-dominant handwriting, if you want to learn how to write on your other hand, it's a good brain focus too. Instead of being on the phone, guilty, but instead of, if you don't like Sudoku, if you don't like crosswords, if you don't like those other brain gimmick games, you can do non-dominant handwriting, and that switches your brain to doing something different. And next category, we have another creative outlets, but instead of involving tonics, creative tonics. There you go. That was the category for that one. Creative tonics. Instead of tonics, this is just creative thinking. Pen pal. I don't have a pen pal. Can't afford the stamps. I can do email though, but I can write it on a rough draft and then send it that way. Or I can just save little letters and then put it in here. I'm trying to write a book, and when I'm writing that book, I have author rights, and in this one you can do plot twists, you can do female main character stats, male character stats, you can do story details, or you could do plot, you could do backstory for each character, you can do character traits, you can even have one that has names, just a list of names that maybe you really like this name, but you just don't know what it would be. And do music playlist inspo for this. And when I'm taking a break from the book I want to write, I can do short stories instead. Because for me, if I stop doing something for too long and I don't have a similar interest along what I'm doing, it's really hard and difficult to pick that back up. So having something to take a break from, but having a very similar thing to do, I can just easily swap back between the two. So writing short stories is really good. But I don't want to combine the two. World building. So when I'm writing the book or when I'm writing short stories, I can do my world building from here. And you know how like Sarah J. Maas has her dimensional books where she cross-references characters and puts them in her books where they meet each other randomly from different realms. That is so cool to have this. That's so cool because then I could do that if I wanted to, and I can make hints at what I like. Or if I don't like a world thing in here. Like if I write a world in here and I don't like it, but I wrote it. So now it's like just a wasted thing. But I can just have a bunch, different ones that I can think of. Songwriting. I love writing songs. I love writing songs more than I do listen to music. But it just feels so childish to say that. And so it just feels weird and awkward to think about doing again. But I'm trying not to care about that, so I'm gonna try and do that again. Same thing with poems. You can have one for poems. I think I have written a couple songs in here. Yeah, I have this secret talent. I could write a song about any word or any genre as many times differently, varying, and then write it where it doesn't sound the same each time. But don't ask me to sing because I probably can't sing. Okay, I want to do that one last because that one goes with all of these Ziploc bags. So we're going to do that one last. Yeah, I feel like in middle school, people were like hardcore lying to me saying, oh, you have a good voice. Because I was so interested trying to tell my friends, hey, I can write a song for you. Like, I tried to get them to tell me a word that they want me to do, or even just a song out of their name or something, and I wanted to like try and gift it to them. They didn't like that. I guess they thought that was a bit much. In elementary, sorry. No. Yeah, it was in elementary. Not even like 5th grade yet. Or it was 4th or 5th. Okay, so this next category is it's tracking. You're tracking something of some sort. You're tracking something. Daily planner. I do not write out my planner based off of to-dos. I write it based off of my routine. So for example, prayer and morning routine, and then like a Bible. So what that means is like I'd pray, and then I'll like do my morning routine, which is brush my teeth, drink water, eat breakfast, make tea or whatever. Instead of writing out all those little things, I'll just do my routine. And I had different routines set up, so I'll just write that. And see. And then I'll like write days or something if I've been doing it consistently. And then I'll try and shorten it. I don't use this so much anymore because I found something way, way better for me that I'm using right now. Because my routine is kind of chaotic, and so that's on the back burner for now. Community socials, basically, things that I want to post or something, or an idea I have, I can write it in this, and then that will keep track of what platform I'd like to use it on. YouTube film, the manuscript direction. You can write out what you want to say pre-written if you have a hard time communicating what you want to say or talking, or you just blank. You can pre-write it and then just read from it. and that helps a lot, and then you just read from it. I get like that. The only reason why I'm not doing it in this video is because yesterday I wrote down all of the journals and what they do on my laptop, and then I spent the day talking about all those journals, so it's pretty fresh in my mind that I'm not reading it from here. Budget reflection. I just write out what I bought, what you buy. If you have a hard time spending money, or you just have a lot of money and then you can't keep up with where it's going, I think that's a problem. Maybe work on that. But yeah, you can just write it down here. I know some people have an addiction to buying things, but I feel like a reflection of it might help you and motivate you to also not spend so much if you're having a hard time not spending. Or maybe you just earned your money from the first paycheck and you want to look back on how you spent your money, or just trying to save up in general, how to budget your stuff. These two last ones are more for hair care. So basically what my hair likes, or any ingredients to look out for, hair masks, hair oils, what is healthy for my hair wash days, or what am I going to use for this hair wash day, what am I going to use for this hair wash day. Now, I would be honest, that is not the intention of how I was going to use this journal, but I am going to do that now, because I was going to use it way overcomplicate, like how I did this one. But that's how I'm going to use for this one. It's what I or I can even write down haircuts that I got on this date to keep track of when I would need the next haircut. This one is my hygiene. So I have a lot of routines and different routines, and that was just supposed to break this down. So if I feel like I'm overwhelming myself, or if I feel like I'm if I basically feel worthless, that why am I doing this or something, I don't deserve to do this, or this is idolizing, I can look back and remember Jesus does care about the little things that I like to do, and then I can look at the health of it, and then as long as I'm not obsessively idolizing it to the point where my self-worth is coming from this, but using it as a pick-me-up because I don't feel like I do, and then by doing this, that way I can just look back and be like, oh yeah, okay, that's fun. So I like doing that. And I also like looking into the science of it. I really like the science of it. Just recently, I actually found out there is no science behind rocks. Crystal rocks, I thought they were, I thought there was so much science behind it. And then just recently, when I was trying to research it, I found out there wasn't any. And that blew my mind, because I was like, yeah. Oh, I also have a workout one too. This workout one is basically a bunch of discipline inside of here, and science behind workouts, and it's focused thoughts, and then it's just motivation. It's not really workout routines, but it's just the science of working out, and motivation, and discipline, and movement, and just encouragement. It's encouragement. But this next category is another tracking category, but instead of self-reflection, instead of self-reflection, it is tracking your physical media, because I have a lot. Okay, let's start with the top. Let's not start at the top. let's start with the second top one. So this is Lemon 8 and TikTok and Red Note. What this one is for is writing down all of the posts and stuff that I have saved, and then I can write down the category of it, because sometimes I'll create duplicates of that same thing, or sometimes I won't remember that I'll have it, and I'll write it down for something completely different, even though it's the same thing. This, I don't have to worry about that. I can look at it and see it, and then I'll be like, oh, I do have that category. Okay, let me save it onto this one. Or if I'm looking for something specifically that I saw recently, I can go back and be like, did I see this, or am I making this up? How do I find this? And then that way, there you go. Okay, there was another one just like that, but I think it's on somewhere else. But I'm going to show it. Okay, Facebook groups, same thing with Facebook groups. I write down the Facebook groups I'm part of, and that way I can click. I can't click the page, obviously. I can basically just go to the page, and then from the thing, I need water. I'm going to take a break, pause it, and drink some water because my mouth is dry and I'm spurring over my words. Okay, I remember how I was trying to explain it now. I am a part of a lot of Facebook groups evolving around hobbies, how to do that hobby, materials for that hobby, beginner friendly, around that hobby. And I've tried to put it all on a Google Doc, but it's very difficult to find that group if the group changed their Facebook page name. And so instead of copying and pasting as they change it, I just don't do that. So I'm going to try and write it down instead. And that way I'm going to also write it down based off of like a category. So for example, there's a hair or a piece of lint in my mouth. I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, well, I must have got it because, like, I think it was from one of my stuffed animal furs. And I'm going to write it down. So, for example, it could be religion. I'm going to write down the religious groups I'm in, like my Christian groups I'm part of, or my church group, or it could be about candles, or it could be about sticker making. And then I'm just going to write stickers. I'm going to write candles. Or I'm going to write upcycling clothes. And then I'm going to follow that with the groups that they're part of that category. And that way when the name changes, hopefully because I invested all of that effort, I'll force myself to change it. Because I think my mind is like, well, it's easy. I'll just change it. I don't know. Hopefully that changes where I force myself to change the name when they change theirs. E-reader books. I can mark down all the books I have on my e-reader. And similar to the groups, if I'm looking for a fantasy about mermaids, I can write mermaids. If I'm looking for high elves books, I can write high elf versus humans. I can write dragons, or I can write the tropes of the book and then write the books. Or I can do it by author, or I can do it by genre, or like comic versus nonfiction. No, wait, comic versus fiction. No, nonfiction. I said it right. I said it correctly the first time. That always gets me every time. This one is tracker for email subscription passwords and purchase history. And creating different emails, because one of my emails that I have has 5,000 emails. I don't know how it gets that many. I just don't. And I unsubscribe to everything. And so I'm going to have different emails for different things. For example, I'm going to have this email be for YouTube and my gaming stuff. So gaming like Activision or Epic or Steam or whatever it is, I'm going to put those things into a different email. Or brands, like purchases for like Macari, eBay or something, I'm going to put that into a different email. So that way it's not all under one, where I'm getting so many emails and I just don't know what to do with it anymore. Brands and unique brands. Vintage. Brands and vintage brands. In this one, I'm going to write what brands to look for at the thrift store. So for example, when I see something really cool that I would like to find out in the wild, I can write it down what to look for, because I'll forget what it is I'm trying to I feel like I'll pray. Like what I can do is like I can pray for what I want to find, and then maybe it will be there. Because otherwise, if I don't pray about it, then it might not happen. But if I pray about it, I give myself a higher chance that it will show up. That's a life hack, by the way. That's a life hack. Some people call that manifestation, but I call that a life hack, a Jesus life hack. Oh, this is the one I was looking for. But I guess, wait, is this all one category? There's no way. I guess I didn't flip the page. Hold on. Okay, well, this is the category. This is the next category. Okay, well, I guess this is all one big category instead. Never mind. Alright, so this is the next category. This one is reviews. Okay, we're gonna try and go by this pretty quickly. Thankfully, I'm not making too bad of timing in comparison to the last video. We're doing pretty good. With how many there are, it's impossible to spam this up into summarize this into 20 minutes. But this is a lot better than the other time, which was an hour and 30, okay? So this one is my commonplace, my favorites, what I like in a month. So what my hyperfixation are, which is currently playing Minecraft, talking to my friends on Discord, and talking to my other friend. And so yes, that's my hyperfixation currently. And then so I'll write and that could be in the spam of daily or a weekly, monthlies, I guess yearly, and quarterly. Sorry, that's what I was thinking of, quarterly. And I can just write down. I love watching my favorite videos, because it's crazy how much it either changes or how much it changes of they found something else and then it's unique and then they like it and then they add it to their favorites and then they sum it in a video of this is my favorites for May, this is my favorites for June. And sometimes it's the same things, and I think that's cool. So that's what this is going to be, and you can use it as a journal too. YouTube reviews. So people I watch on YouTube. I can't talk right now. I have a lot of anxiety about this going high, and I'm trying not to, and so that's getting into my words. So I'm gonna try. Okay, but it's also impossible for it not to. But we are doing really good. Okay, so this one here is, there are quotes that I really like if they said something really profound, or they said something really cool, or I want to remember that, or I want to think more about that. I'll write it down on here, or I want to look back on it. I actually have one. I have a couple from Punzi, a YouTuber named Punzi. I have another one from Pizza for Alex. I think it was a what's in my bag video. And I also have it in, I have the title of the YouTube video with their name and the quote, and then I have the timestamp of when they said it. So instead of rewatching the entire thing, I can rewatch that specific clip and then get the actual context instead of trying to find it. Also, I have one from Butterfly Girl. This is her dye slushies and animating. And this one is about the music playlist she was recommending. I didn't write them all. I just wrote down the few ones that I would like to give a listen to. And yeah, so I recommend that video. And I just write down different quotes or stuff for that. Podcast commonplace, if you listen to podcasts, the same thing you do for this, you do for this. Book reviews, if you have a book and you want to review it, you write it down as the review. You can do pictures, you can do quotes. Basically, the same thing as you were doing, you do the same thing with this. Book annotations, if you're annotating your book, but you don't want to write in your book, you can do it on paper. You can decorate it, you can quote it, you can do the page number. You can do it by series. You can do it by author. It is so cool. And then when you're done with that book and you want to read more and there's a fanfic about it, you can have a fanfic version. Anime index, the same thing. The same thing that you're doing with this, you're doing with this. Anime index. I really, really love anime. I need to write out the Apothecary Diaries and what I thought about that. I just haven't done it because my handwriting sucks. And I want to make it look really pretty. And I feel like if I can't make it look pretty, then it's really hard to actually get myself to do it, because then it just feels like I'm just looking at a bunch of different ones. It just doesn't feel like it has a uniqueness to each anime that's out there that's unique. Movies and TV show, I don't watch TV, I watch anime, but I do. The reason this is separated though, and why it says TV show, is because I do like K-dramas. And to me, K-dramas are like a Hallmark movie. I need to do one for Uptown Girls. I recently watched that and I love Uptown Girls. But the thing with that, when I'm watching a movie, I like looking to see if somebody picked at the architect of the movie. I like watching to see if somebody picked out the fashion choices of the show. I like watching to see if somebody critiqued it based on the props that were used. And it just gives more depth into the movie and the time and effort that was put into it that you didn't think about before. And I really like digesting the movie not digesting, but well, what's the word? Dissecting the movie into the different areas that it has. And then I like writing about all of that. I like writing about, summarizing everything and then writing about it. And there's just so much when you think about it in that way that it makes it overwhelming for me to write it. But that's why it's its own journal though, because I feel like when I do start it, and I'm gonna start small, that's why. And of course I chose Uptown Girls. Who doesn't love Uptown Girls? There's so much to talk about with that. Music and mood playlists. I don't have a connection to music as a lot of people describe they do, but I wanted to see how music evolves the spirit around Jesus and why it's like good for the spirit, because I don't think there's anything wrong with music. When people say secular music, I don't think there's a lot of secular music out there in comparison to how it's made out to be. I don't. But that's not to say somebody who listens to something can't tolerate something else. If you can't tolerate it, then you shouldn't listen to it, and that's a good thing. But I want to have my own connection with it, and I want to have my own connection to it with Jesus, involving what music actually means and why it's a good thing for people. And that's what I want to learn. And so I have music and mood playlists because I want to use music in a positive way and to try and help me with my moods. And that's why I want to try YouTube playlist. And that's similar when I was talking about the Facebook group things, having it written out. You do that with this. For example, retro devices, modding, and jailbreaking. Consoles, jailbreaking, and modding. Oddly tech specific. Let's see. I have other ones. Linux. Consoles DIY builds. This one is Linux chips parts, how-to ROMs. Pokemon has its own section. Palworld has its own section. I actually put Palworld and Pokemon side by side just to do the to Pokemon for even being a jerk to Palworld. Cozy game related. So for example, my gaming setup tour or what's in my gaming bag. I think those are really fun to watch. And then I have one for Minecraft. I have one for Dungeons and Dragons, Kindle and ebook readers. But yeah, so when I watch all these videos, I create the playlist for them and I put them in there. And when I create that playlist, I'll choose the category that I want to put under that playlist. Or do I want to create a whole new category and add to that one? So there's that. Alright, now we're in the hobby. Now this is my hobby journal, where it's basically skill trees. You set up the hobby you want to learn more about. So this kind of goes hand in hand with my Facebook group one. I can write the skill tree out for the hobby I want to learn, and then I go to the Facebook group one. I look through to see if I have any Facebook groups for that hobby, and then I'll hop in and then ask my questions, and then I can hop out. And I write down what I learned and then some beginner stuff to look out for, maybe lists of things I should get or look out for to do. And that's the hobby journal. Okay. Now we're into Ziploc bags. Now, what are Ziploc bags considered journals? First, if you don't like writing, you can collage. You can make a collage into a journal. I feel like you need to have some type of outlet and to express how you feel instead of bottle it in thinking that it's not real. So you can make a collage. Maybe you're angry. You can write an angry collage. Or maybe you're happy. You could do a happy collage. But that's not what I do. I actually write out my emotions. I have all of these things for these journals right here. I'm fortunate enough that somebody I work for orders a lot of magazines, and when she reads them and she gets done with them, she gives them to me. Sometimes that could be 30 at a time, or sometimes that could be 12 at a time, or 8 or 4. It just depends, but it still is a lot. And I'm saying basically so much. Basically, I'm basic for saying basically. It's a basic word. This one is, we're not going to do that one because I don't remember what that one's for. So, Pinterest. Okay, all of these are called magazine with the word Pinterest in it. But I'm just going to read the last words because that's what the last words are more initialed for. So, wish list. You know how on Pinterest, you go on Pinterest and you search, like, lists of based on the season. You can have that for wish list. So, like, Christmas wish list, Pinterest, you can put that in here. And most of the time, it will be in the magazine. And that's what this is for. Instead of using Pinterest, you use the magazines and you make it physical. Similar to how when you were a kid and you would get the Walmart magazine or you would get the Toys R Us magazine and you'd circle what you like and you would just circle everything. You can, or the Best Buy one for Black Fridays. You can use magazines, cut out what you like, and then use it as your wish list. House building cutouts. Okay, now I will show. Oh shoot, I may not have, I had this organized, but I had to unorganize this, but here it is. Okay, this is way better than Sims. Forget Sims. Sims cost money for a pillow. Sims cost money for a plant. Sims cost money for everything. Forget Sims. You know what's free? Once you have the magazine, all these add-ons are free. You have pillows, you have lamps, you have planters, you have tables, you have beds. And what you can do with this is you can build you a Sims house inside of here. You could draw it if you want to, you could draw it, but I'm not a drawer like that. And the details for this, you can glue inside for here and just make a little 3D, not 3D because that's not 3D, but you can make yourself a little diagram. That's the word I'm looking for, diagram. You can make yourself a diagram of the little house instead of Sims. So there's that one. You can make an outdoor vision board, an outdoor garden vision board. You can do a house vision board, and I actually got started on this one. I'll show you some. This is like summer. I'd want a little floaty pool. I'd want a cooler. I think that would be fun. I think little fun stirring things for my drinks. Little throw pillows. I think that this movie now is really cool. I just like the comfort of this, how this living room looks. I like the comfort of how this looks. Let's see. And then you can add whatever you want. And it can be a physical copy of it. Because I also started this because I heard a lot of rumors of people getting kicked off from Pinterest for having too many saves of something. And I think that's crazy because, like, that's Pinterest. What else are you gonna do? So this one is outfits. If you like an outfit from a magazine, you can glue it here. If you want to create your own outfit from the magazine, like a fashion thing, and make your own style, like you like this part, but you want to add to this part, glue it in here. Collages, if you want to make a collage out of any of them. You know those restaurant games you go when you're at the restaurant and they give you when you were a kid, you get a kids menu and they give you word games. And you can create a secret hidden language. You can create a secret text. You could create a code or an unscramble the word, or how many words can you find. You can just do any type of word game. You could do this. People cutouts for comics. Basically, I don't know anything about celebrities. I still think that today's celebrities are Hannah Montana or I don't know. Like I don't know. Like people from Disney, I still think are the celebrities that are acting. But come to find out, when I'm looking at these magazines, I don't know a single person. I don't know any of them. But that doesn't mean I can make my own comic strip out of them, my own dialogue, what I want them to pretend. And I think that's really fun because you don't have to draw anything. You don't have to just try and sketch out face features. You don't have to dress them up. You can just glue the person on and then make little bubble chats of what they say. And I think that's so funny. That's so funny to do. And all of those that I just mentioned has these Ziploc bags, like junk journaling, words, house designing, garden, or like pet care or something. And that is why all of those have to do with those. Now we're on the last part, and I'm going to pause this as I get these out. And now this next category is like spending time, more intimate one-on-one time with the Lord. And this one right here, I'll start with my red journals. By the way, none of these were meant to all be red. It kind of just started off as wanting to draw on the cover, but choosing any other color wouldn't have made the drawing pop out. So we chose red. And then it kind of just became a thing of constantly choosing red by accident, not even meaning to, that now it just feels like an act of betrayal to choose any other color besides red. We got Bible studies, that when I'm doing a Bible study with somebody and I want to take notes on the study that we're doing, or when I'm trying to read it, I can take notes and really dissect what the verse means to me, or what I feel like it's saying to me. My prayer journal, where I write out prayers because I have a hard time saying them, and I have a hard time like talking without just constantly repeating something, and it feels less intimidating to write it in a prayer, to write it. Time with Jesus, basically, this had a purpose, but that purpose kind of took over to something else, and so I don't know how to really use this journal yet anymore. This one is services and thought of God. Sometimes at night I'll think about a worldly thing, and I'll think about how messed up it is, and I'll think about how is that biblical, or how come people who are atheists don't even see it that way as something they could try and change, even if by morally coding something. And so then I'll think of it, and then I'll think about how come a Christian who believes in God can't do that? Like, how come an atheist acts better than a Christian around this subject? And so that's what I'll think about, is like, how can a Christian be better when like there's no maybe and there is an excuse, but really maybe there's not, you know? So that's what I think about late at night sometimes, and then I wrote it down in services of thought. And also, how can I put Bible into it, you know? So I like doing that. Mystical Jesus, in the same aspect of how I mystical my life, I would like to imagine that heaven isn't going to be boring. I'm having a really difficult time grasping that if heaven is going to be boring or not, and I don't want it to be. So I would have this journal to maybe like write down what if scenarios of, ooh, what about this? What if this? And then write a story out of it. I think that would be fun to do. Or even when I'm stressing out, I would like to like write it out as a way that doesn't blaspheme God, in the way to like, how can I ask him, or how can I pretend that my situation can change without blaspheming God in that way? That's really difficult to explain, but in my head I know how I'm going to do it, but explaining it out loud sounds really difficult and really confusing, so I'm sorry about that. But inside my head, I know how I'm going to do it. Writing through the Bible, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Nope, I was going to. I had high hopes to do it. And then when I started reading the Old Testament, that went away. I cannot be bothered to write through the Bible that way. Nope. I'm not writing out the names. Reading it is hard as is. I cannot be bothered to write through the Bible unless I was told to by God, and he's not telling me to do that, so I'm not doing that. Nope. Instead, because I do not want to waste a journal, instead I'm going to write through, similar to how I do my Bible study, I'm going to write it through here, so that way when I'm doing my Bible study, I can write the book that I'm reading through here, and then look up, and do it that way. It'd be like a part 2 of this, I guess. But I can't believe I tried to talk myself into writing the Bible through. Whoever does that, congrats to you. Congratulations to you. Job Diary, if you've never read the book of Job or heard of it, it's basically Job has his whole life turned upside down, and that's how I feel a lot of the times. I feel like my life is constantly being flip-flopped and then hit with a brick all the time, and then I blame God a lot, but then I actually meditate on what happened, and turns out I'm the problem. It's my fault. I did that. My anger issues got in the way, or I got overwhelmed, or I jumped to conclusions, and it was my fault. But that doesn't take away that I don't want to keep track of that. So I wrote it as a Job diary to look back at, like, wow, you know, something to be grateful for that God brought me out of, even if it sucks, because it's my fault. And instead of blaming him, I can look back and be like, yeah, I did that. That was me. But you know what? Thank you for bringing me out of that. Okay. This is also my prayer journal. This is also was my commonplace journal for a lot of things. And that's why all of these journals exist, is because I stopped writing in my prayer journal because this was becoming too many other journals. And that's why I needed other journals. But now I'm writing in my prayer journal again. So that's nice. This is when I'm not in a Bible study and I just have a verse that speaks out to me. I'll write the verse down, and then I'll write down my personal thoughts and what I thought about the verse. Or if I found a verse that speaks out to me, and then I can't wrap my head around why it's sticking out, so I keep reading until I can find that connection. And then when I find that connection, even if the middle parts have no connection to me, but this next connection does, and I'll write that down, and then I'll describe why it has a connection. And when I say speak out to me, I mean something that inside your head you think, wow, this is really profound. Wow, I really relate to this. This is exactly what I'm going through. Or this is what I've been praying on a couple months ago. Or this is what I've been thinking about. And then I write it down, and then I'll write down why do I feel that this is so connected to me, or how come this is speaking to me, and then I'll write it down. And when I say I more mean, like, I think that those thoughts come from Jesus. Like, he gives me those thoughts, and he gives me that wisdom, and he gives me that understanding. For a lot of people, that's called self-reflection, and that's good. But for me, I call it wisdom from God. So now this one is my service journal, and this one has all the services I've been watching and the breakdowns, or a quote that they said that I really like, or I'll pray in the middle of the service. Instead of like praying and being rude to the service, I'll like write down the prayer instead. Or a hope I would like to get from this service, or a goal I have from this. I'll write it from here, and I'll write it. Now this journal was all of these journals was from this one, and it filled up so fast, but it's also really difficult for me to navigate and find things of what I'm trying to find. I open this so often, though, that thank goodness that I do. So, for example, I've had trouble with my emotions, so I wrote down my emotions and how I can deal with them. And etc. There's just so much. I need to actually write this out and then put them in the other journals that I have. This is the same thing, but instead of it being everything, like I got this one after this one was done, but instead of doing the same thing with this, I'm separated it to this being the service journal. So I don't have services in here, but I'll have like lessons I'm learning in here. I'll have hurtful things that people have said and how to heal from that. Or I'll have like a daily prayer, what daily prayers I could do, or just different things like routines, routines as in like for example, it's hard for me to wake up, but the Bible mentions that you should want to wake up, or don't go to sleep on a negative spirit. And so I go to sleep a lot on a negative spirit. And so having encouraging things waking up helps me to feel encouraged and connected and reminder of the verse of don't go to sleep negatively. So for example, when you are done with everything you want to do in the morning, your body and mind goes back to being tired. So that's just helpful to have in mind when I'm trying to wake up, to not fall into that temptation. So this next one is basically, again, I've struggled a lot this entire year with blaming God for everything, that I'm trying really hard not to blame him, because when you look back, sorry, not trying to say you, but I'm saying you in third person. So when I'm saying you, I'm saying when I look back, I realize that I'm the blame, I'm the fault. So I wrote down this promise book. I want to fill this with promises that God's fulfilled in my life, so I can be more thankful for him instead of blaming him for everything. And then these two are reusable rocket books. I got this one in thinking that I was going to use it as a reusable prayer journal, where you take a picture of it and then it saves to the phone, and then you can erase what you wrote and then rewrite it. I didn't like that idea anymore, but I still use it as to jot down things when I'm trying to playing a game or something. I'll jot down, or drawing something, I'll jot it. I'll do it that way. I need water, so I'm gonna pause this again. Okay, so the next ones are my most commonly used ones, and then my last hardcover journals that I do use. We got food reviews. I had a bunch of just food wrappers stacked on my desk. It was taking up a lot of room. I couldn't find my glue or tape for the longest time either. That's also why that it's stacked. And I write the reviews down for them, and I'm very hard on the reviews. Very hard on it. In comparison, when I eat it for the first time, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is amazing. This is great. And then when I do the review, I actually think about the taste, and I think about what I liked. I'm like, actually, this isn't that special. I wouldn't actually spend $6 on this again. I mean, I don't spend $6 on a lot of this, but if there was something $6, I'd be way more critical. So we got a Naruto energy drink. When I had it the first time, it was really good. But when I actually wrote the review and thought about how it made me feel sick. Maybe because it was expired. Maybe that was why. Dill pickle, I thought it was the best tasting ramen noodle that I've had in a while. But when I wrote the review, I really enjoyed the taste at first, but then it felt like eating ranch, and my enjoyment for it got lower. Because that's the truth, it felt like eating ranch. But when I was eating it at the time, it was really good. And then, but nope, when you think about it, it was not that good. And so, yeah, you can just use different ones, just different things. I really love this lemon blueberry. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I love it so much. I also put my comfort foods in here too. Like brands that I have a comfort with, that I trust the brands for, I'll put it in there too. I don't know why that's like that, but I'll fix it later. This one is our happy accidents. Happy accidents are where you step on somebody's foot for the 5th time that day after they asked you, please do not step on my foot today. It really hurts because I stubbed it, and then you accidentally step on it 5 times that day without realizing it. And it goes into the happy accidents. I am the main character of this, but Colin, he has his moments. Every once in a blue moon, he has his moments. But mainly it's me, and I really like the idea of writing happy accidents. of what I did. Or when he's giving me a hug and I'm losing my balance and I put all my weight onto his stomach. Or when I'm asleep and I slap him in the face from my sleep 2 times. Not in a row, not like over the course of a few days. But it's happy accidents. Random interactions. Basically, I am on this group where I help admin for, and it is surprising the amount of random interactions I've had to have in that group that I've never had before, where I needed something quickly to jot down, a conversation, to jot down keynotes for. Just randomness. It's just so random, I don't know where to put it, but I need it, so I'll have it in random interactions. That way it's not taking up any other journal that I have, and it's right there. Letters to self. Basically, if I feel very down, I can write a future letter to myself, and when I feel that feeling, I can read it. Like when I'm encouraged now, I write the future letter to myself for that feeling that I'll have in the future, and then I can read it, and then I'll feel more encouraged. Or just things that I want to look forward to doing and a hope, and then I can write it down to calm myself back down that your life is not over, calm down. Letters to people. Where it's a family member or it's a coworker that I work for. I'm thankful that the Lord's let me down my own business, but when I say coworker, I mean it's a client really, and when I do clientele, if it's an interaction or a friend or a family member for the most part, I can write it down in here. Or if it's a letter I want to give to somebody, but I can't say any of it. I can't say any of this to this person, either because I'm not sure if I should, or because I really shouldn't, but I really want to. I'll write it down into the letters to people, so that way I can say it. I can say how I feel, reflect on it. Is this a good idea? Am I in the wrong for this? How should I actually feel from this? Or I can imagine myself as them reading this, and then maybe put myself in their shoes of how I would perceive this. And that way, I have written this a couple times. So that's one of my commonly used journals. Categories. I don't know the category, just commonly used, because I didn't want to put them mixed in with here. Daily log entries. So what I do in a day, what I have ate, what I did I watch, what kind of tea did I have, what interaction did I have, just anything, really anything, just the mundane things, did I play Minecraft that day, or something else, did I play something else that day? Probably would have been Minecraft, but I just write it in here. And what I really like doing with this is that if I use multiple journals, I'll write the journals I wrote in this journal, I wrote in this journal, I wrote in this journal today. And then what I do is, since I have the date next to it, I can also have the date into the journal that I wrote. And then when I look back and then I read that I wrote in that journal on that day, I can cross-reference the journal that I wrote in with that day and just read that more in depth. So I think that's fun. So similar to letters to self, we have letters to Colin. So I'll write thank yous to him. I'll write something that he made me feel, but maybe it was not too kind to say out loud. or maybe I'll write down something that I was appreciative for, and I'll write that down. Commonplace learn, mostly 97% of the time I want letters to Colin to be positive, so I don't rage bait in my letters to him. I rage bait to myself. Commonplace learning, where it's like anything that I'm learning at that moment, and I'll write it down, so that way I'll later get out the journal that it was meant to be for, and I'll write it in that journal later. The gaming journal, so for example, Minecraft coordinates, controls or backstories of a character that I really like, or a quest that I need to go find. Instead of tagging the quest, it's easier to write it down and look for it in comparison to opening up the menu. I cannot open up menus and navigate. These two are very similar. Colin in theory and me in theory. Basically, I break down everything about my character, everything I want to do better on, everything I want to change, everything I like about myself, and then I'll write it in here. I'll write down Colin's character, everything I hate about his character, but because he's a person and he can't help it sometimes, I'll write down how can I not force him to change, but how can I ask him to just do this slightly different, or how can I change myself around him, and I feel like that goes 50-50. We shouldn't ask each other to completely change, but meet each other halfway, or if they really, really cannot help it, then maybe we can help ourselves change, and vice versa, because there's things that bother him about me, but he's never really once asked me to change anything about me either. So I think that's really fair. And then we have positive interactions. I feel like sometimes there can be so much negativity when there's too much stress going on, that when you write out the little positive interactions that you guys had together, even if they're small, because like for example, when Valentine's Day comes around and you see all these people getting all these flowers or all of these candies, and you're like, well, we're broke, where's mine? That's not fair. That's not fair to compare that way. But even without Valentine's Day, he is always super sweet. So I can write down little things that we did, like we played the COD zombie map together, or we went to Kroger and he found me red journals. I love red journals, and he went out of his way to find me that. And that's just something really cute and sweet to write down in a journal to keep track of. Because a lot of people, they lose sight of why they love this person because they're so stressed. And it's hard to look at the positive when everything is so stressful. But I like looking at this book as a little treasure book. Okay, we're almost at the hour and 30 minutes, but you know what? I feel like this was a lot more organized. I feel like this was a lot more cohesive. I feel like this was a lot more explanatory, as where you could actually understand it instead of it being chaotic and sporadic. So I'm okay that this is the same amount of time because it was a lot more organized this time. And we are down to our very last ones. Dream journal, where I write out my dreams. And fun fact, if you write out your dreams, you will remember them a lot more frequently. I don't know if that's an actual fact. I've heard it from a couple people before. I have never fact-checked it. But if you're like me and you fall for the placebo effect, then don't look it up, and this will work. So I write down my dreams. Let's see. Oh, for example, September 20th, 2024, Grandma and I were in conversation, and we both said at the same time, Grandma needs 1 hour sleep to be Grandma. That's what I remembered from the dream, but it was the best. Because I love dreaming. I love it when my grandma's in my dreams. It's like the best dream ever, whenever she's in my dream. This one's very similar to my analogy to myself, but it's also not. This one is more like I'm trying to get back to my child self, and I want that to be separated from constructive criticism of myself, because I don't want to gaslight my constructive criticism to be, it's okay, you don't need to change your anger. Your anger is rational because you're a baby princess. I don't want that. I do not want to do that. And so that's why it's separated, so I do not do that. But I still want to go back to my child self. So I just have little child things in here that I want to do as my personality that I used to do. And you know what? That was the personality that my husband fell in love with, and he never asked me to change. I'm the one who kind of like drifted away from that. And also trauma from my bio family pushed that away too. But he loves that. So I want to also go back to that. This one is my glow up journal. I watched a video series called The Glow Up Project by Jenna DeMar, I think it is. I don't know if DeMar's her last name, but it was by Jenna, I think it was. I don't know. Look up The Glow Up Project. It will be there. Anyways, that it inspired me to do my own. However, I'm not going to do the glow up, like call it the glow up project, because I feel like when there's bigger YouTubers out there, they might take offense to that, even if it was seen as something like really inspirational in that way. So I'm going to call it something else. Maybe like Jesus Creating in Me, or Cozy Chronicles, or something else. I don't know. But this is my bubble map of things that I want to do better in my routines and stuff. And I have it right in here as updates. So I want to start filming that as a series, because that's something I've been really wanting to film as a series. But I just get so stressed out that I just don't do it. Now these are all my childhood stuffed animal tags. I do not have the original stuffed animals that I got when, like, the OGs. I had to rebuy all of mine by memory, because my bio mom forced me to get rid of them, or she dumped them when I was visiting somebody else. She just dumped them. So I have this and I have this. And this journal is basically, I can write down my indents of the stuffed animals I got, and I can write down their personalities. I can write down their ages. I can write down their birthdays. I can write down what they like. Just something where, again, childhood me would do, something sweet and innocent that I would do, that people who lose their innocence or wouldn't think to do. And I love the idea of writing out a story as their personality with their birth certificates inside. I think that would be so much fun. Okay, now we have sticky notes to jot down random things on the spot like that, or some to save here. We have management, basically my mental notes I need to keep track of for myself, of what not to do from my criticism journal, basically. But again, carrying that red journal, I'm not going to do it. But I can have a mini version of things that just snippets of things I want to remember. And then we have my daily planner. Now, how this planner works and why it's so much better than the other one is, for my situation right now anyways, is instead of writing down down my to-do list the night before or the day of, I write it down in increments. I write down 3 things at a time, and then instead of waiting, I do those 3 things. Or I don't write down a whole list. I don't write 6 things. I don't write my routines. I don't do that. I write it down in micros, and then I'll write it down, and then I'm able to do it. And that's why this journal works so much better. It's because that way, if I'm going to be up and about, I can just do it anyways. And I don't always write it down either. But when I do, I'll just do it like that. So, that's all of my journals. I do have a Google Doc of this too, so if you don't want to watch this, but you still want an inspiration or ideas of this, you can look at the Google Doc, and there's more journals on there too that I haven't mentioned in here because I don't own those journals, but those are some that I really want to get. Those are journals that I want to get eventually for me. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, and if you came from Grace's Discord, I think it's really cute that she does this. I used to do this with my face, just weird face videos because I didn't know how to wrap this up. So, if it's not wrong, I would like to do something like that too. I think it's really cute that she does that. I used to do that in some of my older videos before I would redo them, and I was just so tired and so drained that I would force myself to be focused, force myself to remember word for word what I said. If I messed up on one thing, fine, it's okay, but you're gonna do this. You're not gonna be funny. You're just gonna be straightforward and talk about this and then be done. And so, watching her do her thing, I think it's really cute, and then it helps me feel like, hey, you know what? That's not bad. I feel like I'm not weird, or I feel like I'm not I mean, I guess I'm weird, but I feel like I'm not cringy, I guess, in that aspect. Well, thank you for watching. Anyways, I hope you got some inspiration, and this is great for me to look back on too, because I also want to do this for you. Even if nobody else watches this, I actually really had fun with this, and it has helped me with my I don't want to use the word dopamine because that sounds negative, but also it did help with my dopamine. So, bye. Anyways, enjoy.